Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. I'm in Max. Pursuing the RPG hobby with reckless abandon.
Why, hello, and welcome to Season 23, Episode 15 of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. My name is Stu.
My name is Kimmy.
This is Tappy.
And Mac. I don't know why I said it like that.
Enthusiasm.
You're enthusiastic.
I am.
In this episode, KSC writes in, coining the term for what I was talking about in the last episode, if you happen to have listened to the last episode. Julie writes in on when to stop. And Doggos? I don't know. Sends us a horror story.
Doggos.
Oh, from they're in the Slack or in the Discord.
Okay, all right. But first, if you'd like to email us, you can email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. That's happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. We stream the show live on Friday nights at 7 p.m.-ish Pacific time. You can go to happyjacks.org/live if you would like to watch the show when we do it. And we're also on many social media rights. We're on...
It's not... Okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
What?
Nothing. It's fine.
We're on...
No, I think that's amazing.
We're on Facebag, and we're on the Twitters, and we're also on Instagram.
Yeah. Got that one right.
Insta-kilogram.
Insta-kilogram. And...
Don't tell me, Tappy. Don't tell me.
and MeWe. And I didn't post the pre-show thing on MeWe. I forgot. Work has been very busy.
Yeah.
But you can find us there. Happy Jack's RPG, all one word. All one word.
On all the social medias.
On all of the social media rights. And including Facebag. And if you would like, if you are in the Southern California area, or you might find yourself in the Southern California between February 15th and 18th, we will be at OrCon 2019 at the LAX Hilton Hotel. And we're going to be streaming live games.
Yes.
Woo!
It's very exciting.
And also our show will be on Saturday night, and that will be streamed, hopefully, live as well.
If you're going, you can actually sign up to be in those games too.
Right.
So it's going to be Happy Jack's GMs, and then half the players will be Happy Jack's crew, and then the other two will be sign-ups. So all the games are already put in. Mac's running a game, Stu's running a game. Mm-hmm. I'm running a lot of technology shit. And so
I'm doing stuff too.
Yes.
Like, I'm doing a lot of stuff. It's really real busy.
You've got a seat in the bar you have to keep warm.
I do.
And Tappy will be there.
Someone has to run and get my drinks, so that will be Tappy.
What?
But so you can, if you are pre-registered on pre-registration day, you can go and sign up to be in those games.
Right, but they're only 4-player games, and there's only 2 spots per game.
Yes, so be on time.
Actually, what I am is a backup. Unless somebody can't continue because they fall downstairs or something like that, then I can jump in.
Yeah, you won't push them.
Or drink too much wine.
Yeah.
Shut up! I'm going to tell you, I haven't had any wine since the last con.
Right.
Because it makes me nauseous.
Yeah, you just had everything else.
I just had all the wine at the last con, so now I'm on whiskey. It's fine.
So, until you can't drink whiskey anymore.
Yeah, well. That problem will be problem for tomorrow's Kimmy.
Right. That's future Kimmy's problem.
Future Kimmy's problem.
All right. Urgent response to last show from KSC. Let me just preface this by saying that I was talking in the last episode, at the very end, we had an email. It's kind of a horror story about a GM who was kind of being a little bit too permissive with what your character. I want to be this. I want to do this. And it was with
the player who was really seemed to expect to be able to do anything, and the GM didn't know what to do.
Right, and just said, "Yeah, go ahead." Yeah, and it got a little.
Yeah.
Well,
it's. I mean,
didn't say no.
That's kind of easy to do in a lot of PBT games if somebody has expectations. Especially sometimes they'll even get to just like, well, I want to use this move. You're not supposed to, but that happens.
Yeah, but they weren't playing PBTA.
Oh.
So it was like that. It was kind of like that attitude that people sometimes who only play PBTA kind of get, and it was. I feel like it was D&D. It was something.
I don't remember.
Yeah,
I thought wasn't it? Oh, it was Fate or something.
Oh, maybe it was. I don't know. It was. Yeah, it might have been Fate, but it was not a PBTA game. But it was something where the player kept having these very specific ideas of what their characters should do and how their powers should work. I believe, and
I want to play a character who's a clockwork something or other. And it's like, okay. It's like wanting to play a ninja in an Old West game.
Right.
Yeah. That's the whole point of being a GM is that there's yeses and nos to things.
Yeah.
There has to be like walls for how far you can go.
I was trying to kind of come up with, is this like a new emerging type of player, like player archetype?
Yes, I think so.
Right. And I was kind of struggling to kind of describe this. Kimmy had said, well, maybe that's just like a hippie game version of a min-maxer. But let me read his email now, because this guy, I think, I think I agree with him.
I didn't say hippie game. I'm just going to clarify that.
Uh-huh.
I didn't say.
No,
hippie.
you didn't say hippie game.
Hippie game is not bad. It's not pejorative.
No.
It's not bad shorthand for PBTA games and things like it.
No.
Right.
But I'm just going to clarify that.
I mean, you could say story games, but aren't most role-playing games story games?
If you're doing it right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay. Hey, guys. On the last episode, Stu remarked that the subject of the horror story was suffering from an RPG malady, but did not know what the name was. I believe the term he was looking for was premature expectation.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of... Sorry, that was premature.
I'm just going to say right out, I hate premature expectations.
What's the most important part of comedy?
Timing.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Sorry. I'll let you do it.
Yeah.
No, you asked me.
Okay, what's the best...
Timing.
Okay.
Okay.
It was a premature expectation.
Right,
That was
exactly.
the important bit.
PE is typified by a player. Is there a blue pill for this? PE is typified by a player assuming that his view.
It's a whiskey. Did you just get on the that we're talking about penises train, Tappy? Okay, I think you did.
PE is.
I'm late to the penis train this time. What the fuck?
How did that happen?
I have no idea.
PE is typified by a player assuming that his view of his character's abilities and the direction the story should go is more important than not only the opinions of the other 2 to 6 people at the table, but the structure of the world as well. The horror story player did not foresee any arguments from the others or being disinvited from future games because all players with PE suffer from a form of delusion, where they actually expect that whatever they say will be accepted by the table and incorporated into the game for the simple reason that they said it. The PE player has put their fun and their needs above those of everyone else at the table. I won't go so far as to say that played by the arrogant games. Oh, that's a throwdown.
For those of you who didn't get it, played by the arrogant PBTA.
Right. And I'm all out of microwave popcorn. Games attract more players with PE than rules-heavy games because I think you find them at both end of the tables, crunch and fluff.
I agree.
Every time that a player claims they are being railroaded in a heavier rules set because they aren't allowed to engage in diplomatic negotiations with a berserker charging at full speed, ask yourself, are they joking? Or is this the first symptom of PE? In short, premature expectation can be prevented simply by working with your partners at the table. Pay attention to what they are saying, what they are doing, and before you do or say something that is totally different from every session before, take a breath and consider whether your act would contribute to the fun or just shut down the table. Thanks for listening, KSC.
I love his chicken.
If your premature expectation lasts more than 4 hours, consider
No, that's when you're thinking of ED. So it's PEDs, which are performance-enhancing drugs.
Right.
All right. There's one thing I want to talk about real quick that is not really on this, but like the idea of being railroaded by a heavier rule set. I don't think I've ever met anybody, even ones who have this kind of premature expectation, that it's the rule set they feel is railroading. It's usually something having to do with the GM.
Yeah.
Now, these players are the ones who will say they're being railroaded when they don't get to do all the things they get to do. They should be able to do.
I
think.
Yeah, I think
You
I
know,
agree.
these ones will probably be the first to cry railroad.
And like kind of harkening back to the conversation we started last week, I 100% agree that this happens in both crunchy and fluffy games. And that was kind of to my point of like min-maxers. Like I feel like these people, PE sufferers, or
We gotta come up with something else.
PE inflictors more because they're inflicting it on everyone else at the table.
P-eeples.
P-eeples. I like that. Like I feel like people who are min-maxing in more crunchy games like D&D and stuff like that, or Hero, things like that. It's got this. Even though there's a lot more math involved, it's the same motivation. They want to be the badass. They want everything to happen, regardless of how it fucks up everyone else at the table or makes them like overpowered compared to everyone else.
Well, like when Casey and I made our characters in Hero,
I
and they're
very
suddenly
specifically
15,000 times more powerful than anybody else.
I don't know why I said hero specifically in my description.
Yeah, but I mean that absolutely is like, oh well, this game is not fun anymore. Maybe we shouldn't do Hero.
Right.
Sorry, guys.
I mean, Jason Mills, who's one of our GMs and player and amazing here, has this great saying. It's like, when you sit down at the table, you have a set of agreements. And one of the agreements is, at least in most games, like, I'm not going to pull a dragon out of my pocket. I mean, maybe you will if you don't have PE, but I don't know.
That's what I like to
That's
call
another
it.
penis joke, by the way. Nobody laughed, but I'm explaining it.
That always makes it funny.
Is it a gold dragon or a white dragon you got down there?
Purple?
Is the dragon's neck bent to the left or to the right? Or
Maybe just like screaming at the
It
sun.
depends. All right, anyway.
Is it an angry, turgid dragon?
We have a waddle.
Hopefully. All right.
Does the curtain match the dragon?
Anyway, so like you have this agreement. You all are kind of working with the same set of rules, and I feel like those min-maxers, for crunchy games, the people we're talking about with in more story games who just come up with shit that doesn't seem to match, and then expects everyone to go with the flow of it. I don't know. To me, it's a breach of like the communal agreements when you sit down to a game with people.
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just, it's one of those things, too, or I find sometimes the issue with players like this is that they think that they're being really clever as well. So sometimes they want to do these crazy things because they think that they're doing something that's a little... They're being smart, they're outsmarting everybody at the table.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the case, so I always try and find some kind of compromising line and find something that I can offer, but also why their thing doesn't work. And fortunately, I've been lucky that the players that I've been with have been like, oh, okay, and we find something to work, but sometimes you want to look at it and be like, really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a clever move is working within the constraints that have already been created in the narrative and coming up with something inside of that that doesn't break anything that has happened so far.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That might that to me is clever innovation in a game.
And it's difficult with some of, I mean, you're going to get it in rules-heavy and rules-light games, but I definitely see it a lot in some of the rules-light games because sometimes the powers and things are very nebulous. For example, Teenagers from Outer Space is a game where I've run into that a few times because that game, the powers are so nebulous that people kind of take advantage of that.
Yeah.
I once met a guy who was trying to make the argument that potence could do everything because it just made you so strong. So if your legs are strong, you run faster, right? Or if you, and that's what he was trying to do this sort of thing. Like, well, this is how the muscles would work. And the answer is you're a vampire. Your muscles don't work that way. You're moving with fucking magic.
Right, exactly.
Well,
right?
Also, not to get too technical, but I know some swole-ass motherfuckers at gyms who can lift shit for days, and then you ask them to run, and they're like, thick trunk legs, like, cannot move in the
You're
running
moving a
motion.
lot of mass.
Yeah.
It's like a pug trying to run.
Right.
Like, they can only move things, like,
You mean
vertically.
hilarious?
Yes. Not to get science involved in this bullshit,
but
yeah.
but that's the thing. It's like, oh well, this should be able to do this because of this reason that I
Right.
thought in my head.
Yeah.
And that's the same problem with min-maxers. Kind of you're saying is min-maxers. It isn't that you have high and low stats. High and low stats is fine. Being bad at shit is fine.
Fun.
But they try and put it to where the bad shit is stuff you never do.
Yes.
Or is covered up by the big stuff. And so it's just kind of the same thing of like, but narratively is, you know, I get to create a narrative. So I'm going to make an insano narrative that does exactly what I want, or cuts other people off from what I want, or cuts the GM off from doing what they want.
Yeah.
Now, I had started a thread on MeWe about this, and someone posted something. I didn't see this until just now. And I just read through it. It's a little lengthy, but he brings up some interesting points.
Because it's the first time you've been on MeWe since you posted it.
No, I go on MeWe like every other day.
Every 5
I'm sorry, I can't help but giggle every time you say MeWe.
You know what,
it's fucking ridiculous.
Do you know what I call people who are on MeWe?
MeWeers?
MeWeans.
That doesn't make it any better. Nope.
Anyway, he said,
Is there a drinking group on there called Drink Me Weed?
oh, that would be awesome.
Oh, no, don't drink your weed.
unless you're gonna die.
Unless it's from a purple dragon.
He says, but this phenomenon I'm talking about is different, and it simply requires a compliant GM and the gumption to ask for something. I want to be a clockwork robot with laser arms. Okay, says the GM. If you're doing it well, because one of the things I said in this post was that there's a kind of a distinction between someone optimizing a character and almost breaking the rules in like a Pathfinder game, and someone in PBTA having the gumption to ask, I want to be this. I want to be, I don't know, I want to be a sentient starship.
I want to be a Tyrannosaurus Rex that's also a zombie and a wizard.
Right.
I want to play that character.
Yeah, I know, me too. Also, Necromancer, zombie,
Necromancer
dinosaur.
Rex!
Yeah.
Right. Now, he says that if you're doing it well, there's a lot of skill in this, too. Because there's actually skill if you're going to memorize all of the rules and figure out all the interactions to create a synthesis of this feat and that feat to create this broken character, right?
I don't know what that's like at all.
Right. But he says that there is skill in doing this as well. It is a social manipulation rather than a rules manipulation. It is analyzing the GM and the rest of the table to know where, what they will and won't accept. It is thinking outside the box to come up with ideas that will surprise the others to the point that it will push them past what they would normally agree to without going too far. It's creating logical arguments that will break down the barriers. It is what many call gamesmanship, and if you are playing something like poker and many other sports, it is admired.
It's, oh my gosh, it's a bad Tinder date.
Kind
Right?
of,
Where they're trying to push you past the things you would normally
Right.
agree to.
That's just a date.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah,
No qualification needed.
I don't. Not Tinder specific. I'm sorry.
Now, another person on here, Dale, said that he thinks they both come from the same place, which is, I want to play a badass character.
Exactly. I 100% agree.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, one is like, I want to play a badass character and I like math. And one is, I want to play a badass character and
I have the balls to just ask for it.
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, yeah, it is very, very like inward looking. Where it's like, I want everything I would like everything my character does to work.
Yeah.
And I want it to work exactly as I want it to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to put pressure on the GM to make that happen.
Right. Now, real quick. There's one thing that he said, because I wish I'd seen this before.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I agree with the person above that min-maxing and story controlling come from the same place, but even more than that, I want to play a badass character. I am someone who wants to, quote-unquote, win at role-playing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
One is just like, I want to win. It's like a lawyer versus like a Facebook post. Like, one is, I want to win, but I have all the rules behind me that say this is okay. Like, the min-maxer has all the fucking rules. Like, as a GM, you're like, yeah, you did it, but you're an asshole anyway. Like, yes, the rules say you can do that, but you're a jerk. And the more storyteller game person is like, I have an opinion on Facebook that I'm going to tweet, or whatever. You don't tweet on Facebook, I know these things. But, Like, these are my opinions.
You
I
can
have
if you do it my way.
I have no rules that back me up on it, but you should pay attention and do what I say anyway.
And that will just be loud
Yes.
until you do it.
I am going to post an opinion that I can tweet on Facebook now, though.
Yes. I know social media, okay? It's fine.
This is a tweet. It's on Facebook,
It's
but
on
this is a
Facebook.
tweet.
I mean, technically, if you attach your Instagram or your Facebook to Twitter, you can have fake name.
So when does a social meteor become a social meteorite?
When Stu
Well, social
does it.
media rights are little. MeWe is a social media right.
Oh,
really,
okay.
Technically.
Okay.
Because it's still, it's a Wii.
It's a Wii.
Yeah.
It's a me-Wii.
One of the things that I've heard people who do things like this say, especially when they get shut down, is like, that's not the story I would like to tell.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, that's an interesting statement. Because we are telling the story, but not just we are telling the story, you are your character in a story.
Right.
And that idea that I, as a player, should be able to determine what is going on, what is happening, as much as a GM. There's somewhere players have like some narrative control.
Sure.
But when it's to the point where they basically assume they're a GM and can override the actual GM for what they want to happen, that is when you really start to get into the problem.
Right.
Well, and
You know.
it's at some point it's just taking advantage of everyone else's being polite.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
being, because there is a certain expectation of, hey, like, we play with these people, and a lot of people aren't as lucky as we are. Like, we at Happy Jacks, we're all really good friends, and we hang out with each other when we're gaming and not when we're gaming. So we are incredibly lucky to live in a city where there's that many people you can game with and that are fucking cool.
Right.
But there's a lot of people who they go and game at gaming stores, or they have a group that they don't really socialize with outside of gaming. So you're kind of taking advantage of the social norms of people aren't going to yell at me because they want our game to continue. And that's a really shitty thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
And let's be honest, everybody at a certain point creates a character and they want to be a badass, and that's fine, but I think the more clever thing is finding a way to be a badass within the rules. If you can find a way to circumvent what is already there without it trying to break it, to me, that's far more impressive.
Right. And you're going to tell a much better story if you're all pitching in together. The collaborative storytelling that we preach about so often. I can't even tell you. There's so many times where I'm sitting at a table with people, like here at Happy Jacks and at other home games and stuff like that, and people come up with shit that I never would have thought of. If there's one person that's just completely railroading the narrative, who's not the GM, I use the word railroading, but it happens sometimes where players start railroading the game too. I've seen it happen. They can drive a theme truck, and just people are polite by nature. Especially when you get playing games with adults, you start driving down that path, and people are like, this is terrible, but maybe we shouldn't. Okay, they're doing it anyway. Okay, I guess I'll go with it. They're not going to call you on it, and it's just kind of shitty. And unfortunately, a lot of times, while it ends in that person being like, oh, this was fantastic, it ends with everybody else disappointed, and it ends with you actually having a much less creative story than if everybody was participating.
It's kind of hijacking the narrative control that the player that's supposed to be controlled
Shared.
by all of the players, and
Yeah.
it's a kind of an attempt to hijack it. I
Yeah,
think.
you should always
Not
have
always. But
narrative control of your own character.
Yeah.
absolutely.
I hate the agency word, but you should always have narrative control of your own character.
Yeah.
And the things that your character does that ripples out into the world should happen because your character does stuff.
Yeah.
When you try and dictate what those ripples are as a player, I think then you're starting to get into this realm.
Yeah.
Right.
Then you're starting to tell the GM what to do. You're trying to tell players what to do. You're trying to instead of do the impetus to actually write what's happening because of it, and that's kind of bullshit unless you're playing Fiasco.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it's amazing.
I mean, there are
Right.
there are
I
games
mean-
where you do a round robin thing, and the player whose turn it is has absolute narrative control or near absolute.
Like 10 Candles.
I was
which is a
just
good
about to
example.
say 10 Candles.
Those are more like party games to me.
Yeah, those are-
10
yeah.
Candles is I like to think of it more as a party game than an RPG.
Yeah, it's not.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you should always have narrative control of your character, and the stuff your character does, the things that happen because of what your character does, should make sense.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
If the GM isn't doing that, that's a different problem.
Right.
But yeah, you don't get to say what happens.
Yeah.
in my opinion, unless you're playing like one of those specific games.
Right. More hippie game.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for the email and the coining of the term premature expectation.
It's very on brand for Happy Jacks. I appreciate it.
We need shirts.
I give you the slow clap.
Yeah.
Thank you, KSC.
Yes.
Loves chicken.
I like the hot links myself.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
How do you know when to stop? From Julie in CT, which may stand for Connecticut.
I will read this one, I guess. Hello, Jackers. I've been running games for a while, and I've reached a point in a campaign which is a real rarity. I think we're reaching a conclusion point.
Excellent.
For background, this is a teen superhero game with space opera elements. I'm not the original GM, but out of 5+ real-world years this game has been going on, I've been the GM for at least 2. The players are great, the characters are fun, and the adventures have been epic. There have been wins and losses, emotional highs and lows, and 2 spin-off games. Nice.
Joni Loves Chachi and Laverne and Shirley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are great spin-offs.
Happy Days? Remember Happy Days?
Laverne and Shirley, that's one with Hassan Pfeffer Incorporated.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
I was going to say Angel from Buffy, but never mind. We are preparing for the next season, though. I realize that these characters have been through all the beats in a hero's journey, except for the final confrontation, which they are headed for now. At the very least, this chapter of the story is coming to a close in the next session or 2. There are more adventures that can be had, there are plot threads left dangling, and plenty of galaxies to explore and supervillains to fight, but I don't want to get into a realm of diminishing returns.
That's right.
All in all, I know it's a good problem to have. I'm just curious what you think. When your game doesn't end in a gaming horror story or fizzle out because life gets in the way, how do you know when to close the book on a campaign? Thanks. I love the show and have for years. Julie in CT.
So CT is cock and ball torture without the ball part.
Jesus.
Oh, this is cock torture.
Yeah,
Okay,
cock
all right.
torture. Yeah.
Julie, we'd like to apologize to you. Tappy's letting his fetishes get on the stream again. I apologize.
That's never happened before.
Amazing.
It's on brand. What?
That's true. Yeah, that's a good question.
Who was it that coined the term "always leave them wanting more"?
Someone
Yeah.
smart.
I'm going to find out because that's if you've got if you come up to me if you've got a good opportunity for a poignant ending for the campaign,
Yes.
do it.
Yeah. It's the same thing as reading a really good book series, and sometimes it has to come to a conclusion. There's an ending point of things.
Yeah.
And you just kind of feel when it's the right time for something to end. Sometimes you just need to, or else it is the diminishing returns. It's the fucking sequels that you're just like, oh my god, why are they still making these?
Right.
Or prequels.
Right.
It's like when Dresden Files, when I'm finally reading that last book, I will have tears in my eyes. I'll be like, I don't want him to go.
Oh my god, he better fucking write more books.
I know.
Oh my god, if he ends
It's
it where it is,
years.
I'm gonna be so mad. Anyway,
But wouldn't you be upset if he kept writing and he wrote so far past that ending to the point
Yeah.
where it was diminishing returns?
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be worse. I think your instinct is right on just from the description. Like, it sounds like it's the time. And that can be hard because people sometimes want more story to tell. One of the things that I love that Stu's done for multiple campaigns, and we have it coming up for our current L5R, the Kintsugi Chronicles, is after that final episode, having the people write epilogues.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
Epiloguing is a great way to do things.
Yeah, it lets them have that creative control. Like, the players have creative control of, like, the next step, but it also, like, doesn't make it so... I don't know. It doesn't make it so it's dragging on. Like, they can create, like, a cool ending, or not even an ending, like the next chapter for their character, without necessarily risking taking everyone into another part that is going to drag on forever.
Right.
Yeah, one of the directors that I really, really, really like is Hayao Miyazaki, who is Studio Ghibli, and like trying to imagine like Nausicaa and the Valley of Wind is one of my favorite movies. I'm trying to think of a sequel to that would just make my head explode.
Right.
Even though there's so much more to do, in that like they finally just they finally figured out what like the Poison Sea is doing that it's healing the world and blah, 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 blah. You could create so many stories after that, but it wouldn't be nearly as good. Mm-hmm. Right?
Right.
And so, like, any of those Studio Ghibli movies, if you think about a sequel, it just kind of hurts. It just doesn't really work. You know, you could have so many things spin off of Howl's Moving Castle. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But the story was told. Yeah. You know, it was done. So if you went off onto those little side quests, basically, I don't know. I think it would kind of just be less intriguing and kind of let you down at the very end.
I'll put it this way. Like, we've never had a horror story of a campaign that ended in a fantastic, like, fight.
Right.
Like, we've had plenty of stories of, hey, we had this amazing epic battle, and we loved it, and we kept trying to go, and it just never hit that peak again.
Right.
So, like, not true with PE, but, like, it's better to end too early than too late.
No, right. That is true of PE.
Not for everybody involved. Just gonna say.
No, I didn't say that's good for anybody, but that is true of PE.
Yeah.
Ending too early is kind of the definition.
It's not good.
No.
It's the definition, but it's not good.
Well, PE is not good. We agree.
But anyway, so I think your instincts are right on. Where like it seems like time. Yeah. Like, have that moment end in that peak, because it's better, like you said, it's better to have them be like, oh God, I wish that campaign had gone on for years. They're like, oh God, remember when you tried to keep that campaign going on for years?
I've made that mistake numerous times.
Me too.
Yeah.
And if it's a world that everyone is still in love with, like, end it there, have everyone roll up new characters and play, like, the next generation, or these superheroes, their sidekicks grow up, and, like, whatever it is, like, some cool thing that's still in that universe that everyone has that emotional attachment to, but is a new start, a fresh start.
And
right?
you can totally do that. The first game I ever GM'd was Phoenix Dawn Command, and I picked up Season 2 of it over with Saving Throw, because otherwise the show was going to go away. Yeah. The GM was leaving. And what we did, because those characters are destined to burn out anyway, is I started it off and I did tie-ins to the first season and made one of the characters from the first season the big bad for the second season, because it had been left sort of open. And it was funny because one of the players was the same guy, so he had his current character going up against his old character.
Oh,
and cool. It was a continuation of the story, but with new characters, new adventures, new things to explore, but that still paid a lot of homage to the first season.
Right.
And that's important. I mean, it captures that spirit. It lets people continue with the nostalgia and all the time they've put into building that world and that backstory, but without things getting stale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, getting to play new characters is great. I mean, you've been playing for 5 years. So getting to play new characters is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all have, times when we jammed and tried to push past, like, when I was my first Apocalypse World game, came to a huge, amazing conclusion. We broke for a while, tried to come back, and it just didn't work. We played like 2 sessions, and then we stopped playing.
Right. Yeah, I did the same thing. I ran a very long GURPS fantasy campaign. Got to the final conclusion with the big bad guy in the big battlefield fight, and they're like, no, we want to keep playing. And then I'm like, and then I had to start come up with something, and it has to be bigger, right? It's got to be bigger than the ultimate evil wizard who's, getting an army and is going to summon demon princes and take over the planet.
Right.
So then, I don't know, spacemen come down, you know what I mean? So
Ninja spacemen.
Ninja spacemen, exactly.
Yeah.
But
dragons.
I think the way that we've tended to conclude the games, at least the games that I've run, is it kind of ends on that high point of the combat. And we do all of the epilogues. We do all of the little final scenes. It's like the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
The very end. It's like it's 20 minutes of people hugging each other.
Yeah, it's wrap up. Like, we save the world.
20 minutes of people.
It is, right? The end of Return of the King.
Yeah.
It's like, Yeah, that's what it is. It's a wedding, and people are hugging, and then go back to the Shire, people are hugging, and then...
It's hugging porn.
There's something bittersweet and satisfying at something coming to a conclusion.
Yeah. But
But then you see, like, Bilbo going to Valinor, and that's a little sad, and like, it's a thing. Never mind, keep going.
No. See, I'm not there with you.
I hate you all.
I'm really not there with you.
No, I want to know.
Valinor is like the island where the elves came from. It's like the Middle Earth version of heaven. But he can't live forever there because only elves can live forever there. Mortals who go there like die very quickly, but they have a very happy short time.
Oh, that sounds rad.
Yeah.
But
Yes. Good time and die.
but I don't think that would make a good role-playing game.
No.
Conclusion.
Nah, I mean,
Yeah, that would be
'Cause, I mean,
that'd be a
what-
boring session.
Yeah.
Right now I'm collecting the epilogues from the L5R game.
yes.
And Kimmy's gave me chills. I'm reading through it. When it got to the part about...
The thing.
We talked about at dinner. I'm like, that's fucking exactly how that would happen. But and we'll release that, and then the people who are listening to it can read them, and all of us can read each other's and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's because the campaign ended on, okay, we fought the big bad guy. The big bad guy's dead. The world is saved.
Ta-da!
End. And then all the life goes on stuff. We just did an epilogue. So there's no reason. I mean, yeah, we're streaming, but even if you're not streaming, if everyone were to write a little character epilogue at the end of a game, I'm sure all of the players, if it was a fun campaign, would definitely
Absolutely.
want to.
We did that for Moat too.
Yeah.
And Moat was hard for me because
Yeah.
I came into it so late. You guys had already been playing it for so long.
Yeah.
So when I came into it, I didn't get to play the game for very long.
Right.
But it was still so satisfying. It was such a good place, and writing the epilogue for that was just fantastic.
It gives you. Oh, go ahead.
When you said moat, in my head it was MOAT.
No.
And it's like moat of sin, and then it's like there's like sin.
Sin.
Like all around you. Like people trying to jump into the sin,
Yeah.
and then
That's
they
a little tiny speck in the ocean.
Well, that's how I keep people away from my castle, is my moat of sin.
Your motive sin.
Right.
I love those because it gives you closure on a character.
Right.
Because you can't help as a player but be like really emotionally invested in a character. So it gives you a great way to continue their story past the ending point. Maybe the party like splits up, maybe they don't, maybe they stay together.
Right.
But it lets you kind of explore. Okay, what would happen to my character next? Like our very first L5R campaign. Like my character, was a good, Rokugani woman. She went into a prestigious marriage, had children. Like there's neat things that you like. Okay, after this epic thing is done, what would my character want?
Right. Well, she married a maness.
She died in childbirth. It was very tragic.
It was tragic.
But because
They had a lot of tragic.
it's
epilogues in that.
L5R,
Yeah,
it's supposed
right,
to
no,
have
it's
tragic
supposed to,
things.
yeah.
But
Tragedy's fun.
yeah, it's
is.
super fun, and it's super fun to be able to. At that point, that's when you get to just have 100% creative control. It doesn't matter about the dice rolls. Like
Right.
you can say, my character did something amazing with the party. This is what I want their next part of their story to be, without having to like have that kind of like roll of the dice choice. So it's fun.
Yeah, and I think also in normal life we typically don't have a nice ending to things.
Right.
We don't have that satisfaction. Even when you do manage to finish something, you don't really get that sense of satisfaction. And so I think in role-playing games, that's really amazing when it gets to be like, and done.
Right.
Right? And if you keep on going, then it is more like real life where like nothing's really satisfying because you have so much to do or whatever.
Yeah.
Or things didn't turn out great. Or, that got dark.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about like you're writing an epilogue or your character's in like hospice care or something.
Oh my god, that'd be amazing.
My brain just went down like really bad.
But
Well, I mean,
you get the opportunity here
Jesus.
with this 5-year game to give them that nice
Yeah.
closure and
Right.
finish
Oh,
and done.
And let me just say, for the most recent L5R, it would be nice if all of the players talk about their characters, what happens, and their end, how they die. Because
Yeah.
that was one of the cool things. Like Dave's character in the original campaign, everyone like committed seppuku or died, and Dave's like, I'm going to have a happy ending.
Yeah.
And he like lived his life. He had a bunch of children and grandchildren, and then at a very, very old age, he died in bed surrounded by his family.
Yeah.
That sounds like a Dave.
Right?
Yeah, that is 100% on
that.
brand.
And I'm like, yeah.
And it was super on brand for his character, too.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
amazing.
I can totally 100% imagine Dave playing that. Yeah.
And Tyler's character had been tainted during the course of the campaign. I know. I was almost not going to laugh. but he eventually his character succumbed, and you know it had that very dark ending. So, but yeah, I think if you think you're near the end, and definitely, especially if you're GMing. You're a player too, and you need to have fun. And if this is going to be a really satisfying ending, I think, and this is where I want to end it, and go run something else.
Well, and okay, you can always come back to it.
Yeah.
Like that's the cool thing about ending in a good place. If like 6 months down the road, like everyone's like, oh god, I wish we could just do the next day after that battle. Like there's nothing stopping you from doing that shit.
Right.
Get an idea
Yeah.
of what is next. It's like, okay, hey guys, I want to go back to the game.
Yeah.
And epilogues don't have to be like the rest of your existence
No.
either. I mean, that's another thing with specifically with Mode of Sin was the characters are still around.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So we could come back to that. I hope.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Now, did I
wink, wink,
Did
wink.
Oh no, I definitely want to have a reunion game. Did I tell you what I'm running at the game convention?
Yeah, you told me. And it's
I'll
fucking
tell them.
amazing.
Do it.
Okay. It's what did I call it? A holiday on Caravel Island or something like that, which is the actual name of the Mode of Sin.
I didn't call it that. I didn't know that was the title. So I called it Mortals on the Mode of Sin.
Oh, okay, all right. because
It has nice alliteration that way, though.
yeah.
I really like alliteration. Like it's my favorite thing.
But it's basically going to be a group of like old college friends who decide to get together and go on vacation on this little resort island off the coast of Southern California, and hilarity ensues.
Yes.
So that's the plan. It's going to be fascinating because I'm going to run it in Chronicles of Darkness, which
Very
I should
cool.
probably read.
Yeah.
Way to sell your games, Stu.
I haven't.
Way to sell.
I read New World. What was that called? It's just called World of Darkness, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and rules-wise, I don't think it's changed much.
Yeah, I mean there are some things that are relatively similar.
But I'm making
But
Mortals.
it's still yeah. I mean it's still the same like day school mechanic bullshit.
Right. So, but yeah, I think if you're at a good spot to end it, end it.
Yeah.
And yeah, don't not. Next email is a DM horror story from Dogos.
I like horror.
Dogos.
Should I read?
Sure, yeah,
You should read that.
You may want to divide it up because this is like almost a three-page email.
I'll
well-
start the first page. You can read the second. We'll swap pages.
It's a Verdi one. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I'll do that.
All right. I'll start off then. Hey, Jacksonville, Missouri. Because what's worse than being in Missouri? I'm going to share a tale of a game I was in for a very short time. Drink for the Despair.
This is going to be one of those.
During the early days of Discord, for me at least, we were trying to organize games on my server, and a member volunteered. We'll call him Dan the DM. Dan had written a large campaign and was eager to run it, and we had a small group eager to play, myself and 2 other players. Sam the Gunslinger and Karen the Cleric, I think so for Karen. I was playing a name I still use today on and off when I need to, Steve Phoenix, the bard who also went by Mac of the Wood Fleet.
Oh, it's going to be one of those games.
Elaborate puns are my jam. If my email didn't tip you all off, please don't actually read my address on air. Depends on how the rest of this goes.
Oh, man, I already like this person.
All right, let me look it
This
up
human.
just in case we need to.
All right. And off to adventure. We had to do separate first sessions, no zero, because of scheduling. So Sam and I arrived in Fort Racist. That's
Whoa.
right. Our lizard gunslinger, Rango Django, played by Sam, and my tiefling bard for some reason, thought quote, we should travel to the xenophobic locale because, of course, unquote. So we get vivid descriptions of the citizens' distaste for us and eventually find an inn to gather at. And wouldn't you know it, a whole group of guards shows up. You see, they saw us come in today, but last night there was a murder, so of course it must be our fault. So they start to question everyone else first as they make their way towards us, and the DM keeps telling us that we have no chance. So we run through a window, and Django's shot. And then we begin, quote, the escape, unquote, in which Dan puts us on the Roll20 map, which is a small, maybe 20 by 20 setting, and we move our tokens in increments while we move ours.
Oh, I saw this movie. It's called Reservoir Dogs.
Right.
Here, you want to read this page?
Sure. Now, I hate when people treat real game time and in-game time as the same.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
It only works only in very select circumstances. But we kept asking, wait, are they running? No? Then why are you moving them twice as many squares of us? What's the point? So this continued for minutes of us getting to the edge and waiting for him to move to a new page while we waited for him to load the next segment. Eventually, we hid in an alley. They found us. We knocked out the guards in a frustrating combat, and Gobbo McGobberson, I can't remember, shows up, saying how amazing that was, and offered aid. We get directed to a church. Glossing this, church has an old friendly dude, not racist, or at least doesn't realize we aren't human. We crash and try to heal up. The next day, we have to sneak around the town, find a merchant who will overcharge to take us through the town to the other side, where it's much less wealthy, but not racist. Yeah. So we do. The merchant betrays us for some reason, and we run another forced fight, eventually make it across through some abandoned tunnels, and arrive. We also meet up with Karen. End of session. Poor Karen. And now you're in. Okay, we're done.
Oh.
End of session. Players have a meeting. We're bouncing, popping out of this shithole, and testing how much we can bend or break these rails. Yeah, because Port Racist sucks.
Ooh, yeah.
The next session, we talk with Gobbo, who tries to recruit us for some rebel cause. We say, sure, adventure's motto, and go on this journey through the sewers and across blocks to get supplies. Man, always the sewers. It's so fucking gross. We get them, and Gobbo is there to escort us back. Okay, so never mind. He's been hiding in wait, you see. He's got this prepared, you see. He's actually Gobbo's evil twin racist brother, Boggo, you see. There's no way to know, you see. Mission failed. We regroup, confront Gobbo, who thought Boggo, who worked with the guards and is indistinguishable from him, wouldn't be relevant. We want to leave. There's 2 major roads, a bunch of forests, and also this side of the city. The whole place was walled. Had a couple 100 yards of damaged walls. Den doesn't know what to do. He has this whole arc planned for us, and we have 0 motivation to be there. The cause doesn't care for us, and why would we even have come here? We'd all bail at the first sign. Dan, we can't take the roads because they're patrolled for a bit by guards. Us, okay. Let's travel through the woods then. Dan, those are CR9 and not balanced. I don't know what would happen.
What?
Excuse me?
You do know what would happen. You're the GM.
Right.
You can make them.
Okay, so which way do the tracks go then?
Yeah. Which way do we go?
Which train?
In a circle, the train rams into itself, and it just becomes a giant pile of burning.
Oh God,
Right.
isn't it an Ouroboros train?
Yeah, it is. It's a giant burning pile of railroad is what it is at that point.
Also, somebody illustrate the Ouroboros as a train.
Oh my God. That's a very specific joke, but I love you.
Yes,
And a robber's train?
a train eating its own caboose.
Yes.
Anyway, it's tossing its own salad.
Wait, what?
That's not the same,
It's
Tappy.
not a salad train.
No, it's not. No.
A train giving itself a rim job? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, exactly what I mean. Did I stutter?
We know what you meant, Tappy. It just wasn't funny.
Oh, yes, it is. I beg to differ.
Keep
See, I
reading.
gotta snort. Okay. Us. Well, we'll sneak along the roads until we're clear and hitchhike. Who wants to take the next round?
I'll do that. Cue skill challenges. We managed to jump the broken wall and book it. Shortly after, I wonder if you're around my age, because how long is that? Does that?
Do people not say that anymore? I'm asking for a friend. I'm not immortal.
I don't know. I have not heard that term in a long time.
Book it. Yeah.
13, 14. Yeah.
I don't know.
The fuck?
I still
haven't.
say book it.
Oh, you do? Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
But then, of course, I haven't been around normal society for a long time. But no, it's...
I know the reference. I don't say it.
Right.
But yeah.
Shortly after,
Yes, I
we
do.
meet a traveling troupe.
no, you didn't do Q skill challenge.
Oh, okay. Q skill challenges. We managed to jump the broken wall. No, I said that. The broken wall.
yeah,
and book it.
you did. Okay.
Shortly after, we meet a traveling troupe. A way too easy conversation to ride with them. One day later, in the journey, there's a chest in the middle of the road. It's in the way, so we check it out. We check for traps, investigate it, spend a long time, and then it opens. And waiting for us is experience.
Wow, I heard only artists get paid in that.
No, that's exposure. That's
Oh,
exposure.
sorry, that's different.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about chests with exposure. Just kidding. Yes, we do.
Exposure chests.
Right,
It's better than PE.
right.
PC.
Enough for all of us to level. And the chest vanishes. We carry onwards to a small village
Oh, fuck
they're-
me.
where they'll be performing.
So in my head, you guys, dun 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 dun.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's like you open it up. It's like, is this a fucking video game all of a sudden?
Okay, no, that music cue like brings nostalgia and happiness.
Right?
Like that actually happening at the table brings me going, "Fuck you, I'm out."
Imagine that out
Done.
of like in a discordant key. Then
Right.
Yeah.
Well, couldn't you
And a
just like...
minor key. It's a hilarious musician joke. Shut
oh,
up.
it's somebody like playing it on an old organ grinder box.
Oh,
I want a hurdy-gurdy so bad.
There's one around here.
Stu's got
Really?
one. Yeah.
It's not mine, it's Heather's.
Dang it.
And
She leaves it here for a certain amount of time. I feel like it's
Yeah.
communal proproperty.
it is...
The pain in the ass to tune, I know.
Oh.
Which is awesome. I can play a hurdy-gurdy out of tune. It's even better.
There are very few that get played in tune. Small... Sting played one in tune once. I saw
Right.
him on like a Grammys or something, and he played a hurdy-gurdy, and it was in tune. I'm like, that must be an expensive hurdy-gurdy.
Yeah.
Well, and also have 3 people to tune it.
Yeah.
Right. Who have degrees in hurdy-gurdy tuning.
For those of you who don't know what a hurdy-gurdy is, Google it. Also, if you watch Black Flag, the Bear McCreary uses it in the opening of that pirate show.
That was fireworks, it's not a gun.
Yeah, we know.
Porque no los
We've
dos.
been in your neighborhood long enough, Stu, to be able to tell the fireworks from the gunshots. It's good. All right, continue.
Small village has nothing of note except for a salesman who gives us heavily upgraded gear for like 50 gold. So basically, he's twinking the party because he's got a big combat combo.
Well, it's a CR9 forest.
That's right. Now you're in a CR12 village. I had swappable elements on my rapier that was now just Weiss's weapon. I don't get the reference.
Oh, from the series Ruby?
Never saw it. I don't know what you're talking about. Or read it.
That
or
explained
heard it.
everything, Tappy. Thank you.
Okay.
RWBY.
Yeah.
From the series RWBY. And Django and Karen got some upgraded gear that I thought was a flat bonus. We then are told there's a one-way portal to the underground Thieves' Cove, and the troupe doesn't want to travel with us anymore, so okay, stuff gathered, let's go. We don't need this town, I guess.
Fuck
Use town anyway.
Right. Warped into the middle of the street of what's a magical slum.
Yes.
He's not great at describing it. Almost immediately a kid bumps into us. I know exactly what the DM is thinking, so I try to break the rails. Clarify with the player that, to my fear, they keep all their gold in one location, which of course the kid got. We chase the kid, pin him to the ground, and forcefully interrogate him. Don't waterboard children.
I'm
even in
yeah.
RPGs.
Yeah, I'm a mandated reporter. I'm not sure I can listen to the rest of this email.
It's a fake kid.
Okay,
Not a
but,
real kid.
but the next sentence is amazing, and I can I read the next
Yeah,
sentence?
go.
We were no longer good, but neither was his plot. I'm sorry, it's just beautiful.
Doggo is one of my favorite people.
Yes. Somehow he passed off the gold to a companion.
They are amazing. They're super.
And lies to us with a sword in his leg.
What?
They stuck a sword in his leg to get him to talk.
Oh, okay. For a second
the way
there,
I'm reading
I was like, my brain just went somewhere else. Like he had a peg leg that was a sword or something.
If I was in this game, I'm hitting the X card.
Right. DM didn't even have us roll or roll himself to let us know this was a lie. Well, we escort this kid to another inn that's his boss's base of operations. We deal with bartenders and whatnot, eventually told to go through the back. It's an ambush with a capital A for DM ass hattery.
Oh my god, this is so good. It's terrible, but...
Right. The kid is there, had lied to us. We were furious there weren't any rolls or hints at this. And a whole bunch of bandits and their boss. Q, AOE attacks, and pretty quick couple rounds of us wiping the floor with everyone because we messed up his place. Because he messed up his placements. Money reacquired. Kid dispatched. Happy Jackers drink.
Yoshida.
Done.
We are politely asked to leave the premises.
What? I'm sorry, you've murdered everyone. Can you please leave?
Yes.
God. This is so good. I want recaps from this guy on like every game.
Right. We don't allow murderer here, so I'm going to have to ask you to leave.
No shoes, no shirt, no murder, no service.
We then get one of my favorite lyrics in any song. No shoes, no shirt, and I still get service.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
LMFAO.
I'm sexy
Yeah.
and you know
Yeah,
it.
I love it. No shoes, no shirt, and I still get service.
This is so good.
Lyrics are so freaking funny. We get sent around the town for some errands and meet an old blind woman. The way Dan describes this woman's house and how unkempt it is, covered in filth and a mess because she's blind, we stop. We have a conversation about how that's not cool at all, very insensitive, and not the shit we're here for. We talked about some stuff we didn't want in the campaign, and he's been not so great already at it. There was some homophobia in setting we had none of that we.
I think we wanted none of.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
We depart, and she warns us. She warns us of werewolves.
But werewolves are awesome.
Where are they?
Yeah, but it warns us and also gives us really detailed directions to them.
Right. What I later found out is Sam is a massive werewolf lover, and as I write this email, has sent me new sketches of eclipse wolves. What are eclipse wolves?
I don't know. Maybe it's one of the werewolves, like the
Stephanie
Okay.
Myers.
I mean,
Okay, well, I hope not, because it's not a capital E, so it's not the name of the book.
that's what I was wondering. I was like, oh god, it's not. the
However,
Twilight Wolves.
depending on when you're playing werewolf, and depending on what kind of werewolf you are, you have different phases of the moon that affect you differently.
yeah, like there's.
So I'm going to go with that.
Okay.
There's Arin is the full moon in
Yeah.
White Wolf, but I forget what the eclipse one is.
I've forgotten as well.
Excellent.
All right. Eclipse wolves. So this was hitting a nerve.
Yeah. What? Sorry, I got distracted.
We get sent to another NPC to meet with and start our next plot hook as he just rolls and rolls and rolls while we walk. He's rolling for random encounters. Waiting until he sees some numbers he wants. And sure enough, right as we see the house we need, he describes a cloaked guy in an alley starting to change and morph as he howls. And wouldn't you know it, we're the only ones he has his eyes on. We run toward the door as he finishes changing. Door locked. We try to get them to open it. Cue fiasco of Dan basically racing against himself as we panic. Are low on spells and health because we had another random encounter before. See, I was right. Before this, and are tumbling in as we slam the door. But of course, one of the couple who resides here got cut on the chest while closing the door. She starts to shift, and the session ends.
Yeah. No way.
Dun dun dun. The three of us talk. This was either session 3 or 4. There was one more session cut, but years affect memory. And decide that after all we had to deal with, that nothing improved, we call it quits. Let Dan know he's obstinate about it ending and keeps trying to bribe us back with items or starting another campaign, but we knew. We had broken the rails and he built new tracks, and these trains were going nowhere we wanted. The happy ending to this is that although I had to kick Dan out of my Discord months ago, Karen still talks with us, and Sam is about to start a Monster of the Week game set in a small college town we met in, on top of being a rad artist. Doggos in Discord. P.S. I'm waffling on sending another horror story that is about my current DM on the off chance he does end up listening to these somehow, but I doubt it. It wouldn't be an anthology. It would be an anthology of absurdity. Change your name and change the names.
Yeah.
Change
You'll
your
never
name
know.
to protect the innocent.
Exactly.
Or not so innocent
Right.
if your GM sucks that bad.
Right.
So,
That was a good one.
That was a good
I
one.
love good words.
Holy balls.
Fuck.
so people in the chat room are actually, and I know, like I don't want to talk about it for too long, but they're like, why do people want to play in games where there's specific groups that are targeted, and there's like that prejudice and persecution that happens. So I think that might be an interesting topic for us to talk about.
Oh, you mean the depicting racism in game?
Right. Like.
Yeah.
I mean, there are places where it's interesting to include that in a way that's respectful and not like appropriating someone else's struggles and story.
Right.
Yeah.
And also making light of them.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
See,
so,
my philosophy has always been, if you're playing a character who would be oppressed or the subject of racism or something like that, you tell me if you want it. But otherwise, I'm not really that comfortable depicting it because I have to play the racist NPCs,
Right.
and I don't want to.
And that sucks.
If you're going to make me, I'll do it, but I don't want to.
right. I think it's an interesting thought though, because like Heavy Metal Jess in the chat room was like, why would people even want to play in that setting?
Right.
And I think like there's a duality there, and I think that might be an interesting topic for a future episode.
I don't think that he wanted to play in that one.
No, he
No,
didn't.
he didn't.
But other
But-
people at the table might. And so there's I think it might be interesting to have a conversation about why people do, whether it's people who haven't experienced that, because there are interesting ways that people can build empathy that way too. If they've never been, subject to that.
Well, it's like I was talking about running Song of Ice and Fire. I was thinking about running a game of Song of Ice and Fire where if you're a male player, you have to play a female character in that world, and if you're a woman player, you have to play a male character to sort of have that role reversal. Because even in that game, it strongly depicts that stuff.
So one of the first games I ever played in as a role player was in the Eberron setting. And I played a shifter character because, of course, I did.
Yeah.
Shifters are considered very poorly by most of society in that game. And I have played in other games where I've played, because if there's a werewolf character option, I'm going to take it because I can't help myself.
Right.
Where that's come down. I was in a Harry Potter game. And again, it's something where that's very much looked down on. And it was really fascinating to explore that side of things, especially being, a woman in society where sometimes you feel very much put out and put down by things. So I think it's an interesting realm to explore in, but only if everybody has discussed and agreed to it, because I like playing those characters. I like having those challenges thrown at me, but not at the cost of the comfort of others.
Right. Well, and that's an interesting way to do it too, because that's a fantasy take on that.
Exactly.
So it's not while it is very much alluding to things that happen in the real world, it is not a direct it's not
they're mad at you because you turn into a fucking snarling monster once a month.
Yeah. So I don't know.
It's like the whole thing of dwarves and elves not liking each other. That's a very safe form of racism because
they don't exist.
Not real.
Yeah, it's not real. Well, and
even
also,
if it may in sometimes be an analogy for real
but
racism.
it's also very much like there isn't sort of systemically one of them is at a loss. They just dislike each other,
right?
Yeah.
Right, as a group. But I tried to run, and I failed. I stopped playing this game running this game after just a few sessions, where I had all of my players were women, and they were playing female characters in Song of Ice and Fire. Mm-hmm. And the idea was, let's fuck the patriarchy.
Right.
I was not able to play the characters. I just couldn't fucking do it. I could not do it. It hurt too much. And then there are other things going on in my life that kind of reflected on it. And I was just like, I can't do it. This is too hard for me. Yeah.
It's fucking hard. One of the other games that I'm actually currently in with Geek Space TV is I'm playing in a Night Witches game. And it's based on the Russian Night Witches who flew bombing missions in shitty fucking planes and fought the Nazis. And there's the GM, SG Trooper, he's not shying away from the sexism that was inherent at the time. Mm-hmm. And it's a good game and I'm having a good time, but it's also really brutal at times because it's like, fuck, I'm still dealing with some of the shit now.
Right. Yeah. Right. And there's a real element, Tomes is talking about this in the chat room, of like self-therapy. Like, and while that can be a hard thing, and like, especially us, we stream games, and it's a scary thing to touch on, like, it can be, if you are honest about it and talking about it with your players and you have safeties in place, like, it can be an interesting way to explore things. Like, there are a lot of LGBTQIA plus people who their first experimenting with their true identity was playing a character of the opposite gender at the role-playing table.
Right.
So it can be a healthy way for people to explore, like, other parts of their self.
It is not a replacement, however.
Yeah, as long as you're self-therapy.
Right.
Therapy is good. Therapy is great.
Therapy is good times.
Kicks ass.
The Happy Jacks RPG group would like to endorse fucking therapy.
Right.
And therapy, not fucking therapy. Therapy.
Right.
Or both. Like, that can be good too.
Again, I say, porque no lo estoy.
Yes.
Fucking therapy is like
Sex
massage
therapy.
parlors.
Yeah, sex therapy.
I was thinking massage parlors.
No.
That's different.
Please do not ask massage therapists for sex. Don't
or
do
therapy.
Yes. So, but anyway, like, it can be an interesting way for people to explore different things. I would never condone someone exploring to being a racist, but someone exploring how to deal with someone who is the victim of racism can be a growing experience in a safe space with respect. I mean, I don't necessarily condone taking on the story of somebody else, but if it's something that can in the long run build empathy, it can be a good tool, especially in the privacy of somebody's home. So, I don't know. It's something, like, obviously you have to be very respectful about it. It's something you have to have a very clear conversation with everyone at the table about, but it can't, like, we can't deny the possibility of role-playing games to explore avenues of society and our own personalities that we can't normally.
Yeah.
I mean, I like role-playing games because of for escapism, right? And I don't know. I don't like to. The world sucks.
Yeah.
And it's like, let's not have that. Let's have a world that sucks where the players get to
fix things.
Yeah.
But it's a little of both because, like I said, I tend to play characters that have a lot of fucking problems.
Right.
And part of where I experience the most out of those characters in role playing is being able to overcome in a way that sometimes I can't in my everyday life.
Yes.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And make connections in ways that are unexpected based on that type of character.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so it can be, it's not therapy, but it is therapeutic.
Sure. I can totally see that. I can totally see that.
So it just, like I said, it's interesting for me just because I play those kind of characters a lot. And it is interesting because at the beginning of this email specifically notes that it's somebody who's a lizard of some sort and also a tiefling.
Right.
So I could see them having wanted to maybe explore in the same way that I have with my kind of characters, but there's also a limit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's like in Monster Hearts, I played a character who was Chinese. And a lot of the backstory and experience of that character is based on a friend of mine who is my age group in the 90s, who's Malaysian of Chinese descent. And also just talking with her about what growing up was like. And, you know, she was in a place where there weren't a lot of Asian people, was very teased and all these things. But also, like, finding out how few, like, Asian women were on TV, how little representation there was, and blew my mind.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And it was very isolating. And it's like, okay, well, I'm going to bring that into my character, but I still don't know what it's like.
Right.
You know, I'm not actually, this doesn't mean that I understand.
You're not a woman, you're not a minority.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's like, I get to learn a lot about just, like, what that is like, just being a teenager in the 90s.
Right.
It's in some ways it's heartbreaking. In other ways it's really interesting. And yeah, you get to find things out about different people's experience. Now, I don't want to do that all the time. I'd rather be like a kobold, like shooting things with a crossbow.
Right. You also have to be really aware of the other people at your table, because people are talking about this in the chat room. Like, there have been times where I've been at the table and I've had like male players play a female character, and their female characters are struggling with the hardships of being a woman in society. That can be really fucking difficult.
Sure.
Like, while I'm understanding that you're trying to put yourself in that place, it's like, it's a thing that I deal with every day.
Right.
And while I like spend a ridiculous amount of my time being a strong woman, both physically and mentally, and like in an emotional place, and putting myself out there to be a strong female role model for my students and people in the gaming community and all these things, like, there's daily struggles.
Right.
And it becomes a part of who you are, so you stop noticing it until people point it out. And watching someone playing in that space, playing it being what I am, can be difficult. And I can't even imagine what it's like for people who are minorities or things like that.
Right.
So if you're going to play in that space, which can be an interesting growing experience, please don't put your interesting growing experience over the comfort of other people at your table.
Right.
Because you might think it's really interesting to...
Who don't get to escape it when they walk away from the fucking table.
Yeah.
Exactly.
100%. Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, make sure you talk to everyone, and they, in a safe way, are able to say no.
Right.
Don't walk up to someone at the table and be like, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. Are you okay with that? Because, again, like, just like the PE we talked about at the beginning, people are going to want to be nice most of the time.
If they say no, then they're the asshole.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like just think twice about it, and really, like, think about, like, are there ways I can learn about this and explore this in a way that isn't going to be like making their experience into my game experience?
Or is my fun going to fuck up their fun?
Yeah.
Right.
Right? Because if, like you said, like, if somebody is playing a game in such a way that reminds you of bullshit in your life,
Yeah.
then that kind of ruins your fun.
Absolutely.
At least a little.
Yeah.
And so if you're like, that's not going to be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's escapism at the end of the day. Like I said, even, I play difficult characters, but it's still escapism at the end of the day.
You do play difficult characters, it's true.
I'm a difficult person.
This is also true.
I know this about myself.
But we love you anyway.
I don't understand.
All right. I think we're good.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the racist railroad story is terrible.
Yeah. But it also leads to, like, a fucking great discussion.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Who was that?
Doggo.
Thank you, Dogo.
Thank you.
for the email.
Doggos!
Doggos.
Yes.
Doggos.
Good doggos!
And super glad to see you in Discord, so thank you for that.
Yeah, I haven't been on Discord in a long time.
Do it! Do the thing!
Yeah.
And
That's very
wah. Yeah. Thank you for joining us for season 23, episode 15 of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. My name is Stu.
My name is Kimmy.
This is Tappy.
I'm Mac.
And thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you next week, Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific time. HappyJacks.org/live.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Check out happyjacks.org/schedule for our streaming schedule, too.
Or schedule if you're from England.
Or fancy.
No, don't. If you go to happyjacks.org/fancy, nothing's there.
Well, no, fancy saying schedule.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We'll leave the song.
Also, why isn't there happyjacks.org/fancy?
To your fair maid, you tending your flock. What brings you so early unto this green spot? My father's in the field and he's waiting for me. Call the owls to the nows, Molly and me. Call the owls to the nows, Molly and me. My father's a shepherd herding sheep on the hill. If you get his sanction, I'll be at your will. And if he does grant it, then right glad I'll be. Call the owls to the nows, Molly and me. Call the owls to the nows, Molly and me. Good morning to you, old man, you're counting your flock. Could you spare me a ewe lamb for to keep up my stock? And grass for to feed her on yonder green lea. Call the owls to the nows, Molly and me. Call the owls to the nows, Molly and me. Gang down to yon burnside and choose your ain lamb. You can get it as easy as any man can. And grass for to feed her on yonder green lea. Call the owls to the nows, Molly and me. Call the owls to the nows, Molly and me. So Tommy stepped forward, caught Molly by the hand, and right for her father this couple did stand, saying, this is the ewe lamb that I asked from thee. Call the owls to the nows, Molly and me. Call the owls to the nows, Molly and me. Oh Tommy, it's me you've beguiled. I sure did not think that you meant my own child. And since I have said it, well then let it be. Call the owls to the nows, Molly and me. Call the owls to the nows, Molly and me. Call the owls to the nows, Molly and me.
The preceding program has been a presentation of the Angry Folk Media Empire.
I've got information, man. New shit has come to light.
Why problem make when you no problem have you don't want to make?